We have. All good. Right, so infant feeding 2, and you'll see I put a load on the videos to watch to make sure that we're definitely keeping to time today, not even 10 minutes over. So firstly, we're going to review something that I put on the video, common breastfeeding challenges. So hopefully everybody has had a chance to have a look at the video I made. And we're going to have a look at some scenarios and consider together what might be happening based on that knowledge from the video. If you haven't had a chance, just listen in for the moment, and then you can go and rewatch it and go, oh yeah, that would have been a great one. Okay, so I'm just going to mute up Fiona because she's driving. So she can hear us, but then we can't hear the car noise. Right, can everybody see the photos okay? Everybody who's got video on? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
So
Yes.
we've got a picture of food for those of you who can't see, and there's some reddening and discoloration of the skin around the side of the breast. And it says, Mum has a painful reddening of the breast. She feels very full and baby hasn't been latching on this side very well for a day now. She's starting to feel quite unwell and she's got a temperature and the shivers. So what might this be? Thinking back to the video content of challenges, and what could she do? That's a double question. What could it be? And then what could she do?
I mean,
Is it engorgement?
Yeah, I'm hearing from a couple of people there. Mastitis.
It could be that the baby's only sucking on the nipple and not latching on properly.
Could be. Salyam, you were saying something?
I was saying, yeah, mother could have her breast could be engorged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have been engorged, and that's what's led to the mastitis.
Yes.
What's the clue?
Yes.
What's the clue that it might be mastitis rather than a blocked duct?
The temperature and shivers.
The temperature and
Yeah, so there's likely to be a
shivers,
blocked duct in there, but the temperature and shivers is the clue that she's actually getting mastitis rather than only dealing with a blocked duct.
yeah.
So people who haven't yet contributed, if you want to now, it's a bit hard to say. What could she do? She's got what we think is mastitis. What could she do about this?
She can have a bath with warm water. She can have a massage.
Yeah.
A massage.
She
With the
should
oil.
go to the doctor first
Yeah.
to see if she has to be on antibiotics or not.
Yeah, so if she's been like that for around 24 to 48 hours, and the massaging, the expressing from the side if baby isn't feeding, the cool between feeds and warm at feed, and the painkillers aren't kicking in enough, then after 24 to 48 hours, we'd then be referring on to the GP because she might then need those antibiotics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, scenario 2. It's basically picture the boobs today. So I've got a picture of 2 breasts here.
Painful.
Showing
So
cracked
squawk.
nipples.
Crop
Not nice to
nipples.
look at, but unfortunately you are going to see this. And it said, Mum has painful and cracked nipples. Every feed she takes now is agony, and she's about reached the time when she's going to give up. When you watch a feed, you can see that baby does not have much breast tissue in their mouth, and he's balanced on a breastfeeding pillow with Mum leaning forward to try and aim her boob into his mouth. What might be the cause of this, and what could this mum do?
Because it's not a good latch, I think.
Mm-hmm.
She's lean on the baby, so the baby doesn't. He only gets the nipple, doesn't get the full.
I only got that nipple, and that's what's hurting, because the nipple is going to be in the front of the mouth, either on the gum line or the hard palate, which is causing those cracks.
At this time, at this stage, I think there's nothing she can do. She have to stop feeding.
There's nothing she can do?
I think she has to stop feeding the baby.
We can put.
You can put the ointment on it.
Use ointment,
Yeah, there's an ointment.
cream or
Nipple cream?
Okay, so if we put on nipple cream or Vaseline, and the Lansano, which costs £8 a packet, will do no more good than a 50p bottle of Vaseline. They both will do the same thing, which is allow that crack to heal, and it will heal from the bottom up. If she does not want to stop feeding, there's nothing in here to say that she wanted to stop feeding before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we're dealing with a mum who's saying, I can't carry on because it hurts, rather than a mum who said, I was wanting to stop. Then we would try to avoid her stopping feeding. We might use one of these. I'm going to hold it right up to the camera because it's made of plastic.
Shield. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is
Silicone
Nipple
nipples,
I'm
yeah.
very confused here. why have you got more things? Here we go.
It's very useful.
And it goes over the nipple here.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
how we actually put it on is you
Yeah.
get the thing right. You turn it backwards on itself like that, so it makes like a little Mexican hat. Then pop that over the nipple, and then it's going to suction.
Mm.
The real boobs don't squish like this. It's suctioned to the nipple, and sometimes people use a little bit of breast milk or water just to hold that down. And you see it's got a cutout. That's generally where baby's nose would be. So a nipple
Yeah.
shield can help protect that nipple just enough for mum to keep breastfeeding on that side.
Mm-hmm.
If mums are using nipple shields, they should also be seeing someone qualified in breastfeeding support. That might be their midwife, it might be a breastfeeding counsellor at a local breastfeeding group, or it might be an IBCLC, which is an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. And the reason is they can be lifesavers, but also they can reduce the milk transfer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we have to be really aware that if we're using these, or if mum's chosen to use these, it may mean that her baby is getting less milk in. And we know that A, that would obviously have an effect on the baby, but B, mums who make less milk, take less milk out, will make less milk. So we do need to use this under supervision, not, it's a sticking plaster. It won't cure your broken arm. So they can be something that can get mums through feeding. If mum absolutely can't feed on that side, it's just too painful, but she wants to continue breastfeeding in general, what could she do?
She could
Express.
use the other, if it's just one breast, you could use the other breast.
Just the other one.
So she could boob feed on the other side, and
Yeah.
she could use a pump.
Or a
Yeah.
pump. Yeah.
Breast
Yeah.
pump.
A breast pump, so that
She could use
it's been ready for the baby.
which might be less painful because a correct flange fitting, these bits, by the way, this bit here,
Yeah.
comes in different sizes. One size does not fit all. So this is a 24 mil, it says on it. Your mums may need bigger or smaller, and we're looking at the nipple size. The nipple shouldn't touch the outside of the flange when it's inside. There should be a gap around it. But again, if it's too big and there's too much of a gap, it won't be effective in creating a vacuum. So she could pump on that side, and that will obviously feed the baby, and it will maintain her supply. If we remember back to those rules of breastfeeding, feed the baby, keep supply up, keep mum and baby close. So this might get her through until that's healed enough for her to go back to breastfeeding. However, whether she uses a pump, whether she uses a nipple shield, or whether she puts some Vaseline on her nipple, what actually needs to change?
Say that again, sorry.
You could use a pump, she could use some nipple cream or Vaseline, or she could use a shield, but what needs to change to solve this problem?
Way she's feeding, she's positioned.
Absolutely. So if you go back to the example, what would you be giving her in terms of positioning and attachment support? What would you be suggesting to help make sure that this doesn't keep happening or doesn't happen again?
So it's just she sits up and doesn't lean over baby.
Yeah. So we could get rid of that pillow and get baby nice and close to her and latched on, couldn't we?
Yeah. So trying different ways to hold. And then
Yeah.
get-
So if she's got a crack and she's doing this all the time, maybe she wants to do a bit of biological nurturing, and that will put a different part of the nipple in the baby's mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. Something else you might want to do is an exaggerated latch. So with my here, we might want to flip back. You see my finger there pushing the nipple? I'm trying to get the right angle.
Yeah.
See that pushes the nipple back? If you do that, or mum does this, you don't do this with your finger, mum's own finger, baby comes in chin leading, nose to nipple. When baby opens their mouth for a gape, ping, and the nipple will go further back into the mouth than if she didn't do that. So you're pushing down, really getting that baby in close, and it gives a ping to the nipple, which pushes the nipple further back in the mouth. That's called an exaggerated latch or a flipple technique. Flip the nipple. And it can help get that nipple much further back where we want it. And even a flat nipple, it's far enough back in the mouth, won't hurt as much during a feed and can make...
So you won't touch the end of it almost?
Yeah, because the nipple is right in the back of the mouth where it's nice and hot. There's nothing then to hurt it.
Yeah.
Something else you could try, breast shaping. So you could make a burger out of the boob. Again, so that when baby comes up with their chin nice in, they've got a better chance of getting a large chunk of breast tissue into their mouth. So if a mother's got a nipple cracks, you know, that's severe, I would be hoping you would be signposting her to someone with appropriate levels of breastfeeding support. We do want to, if she's not someone who wants to stop feeding, we do want to support her to either feed through or to express and contain and keep up her supply, but to change that latch so that she's able to progress through her feeding pain-free. Right, let's look at mum 3. So this is a picture of a crying baby. And mum 3, mum feels she has low supply. If she was told to top up in the hospital, the baby seems much happier after a bottle than at the breast. And at the breast she's fusty and she won't settle. Mum has increased formula use to 150 ml a feed. Baby is 2 weeks old and gaining weight well. What could be the causes of this and what could mum do?
So she's increased the formula as well as the breast, or she's
Well,
not.
mum's feeding, but doesn't feel she's got much supply going on.
Right. So she's popping up with
105 feed. Oh, baby's very unsettled. Okay, darling, I need you to feed. Right, let's go straight to the bottle then, because baby's not getting on there very easily and is not doing much at the boob. She's just being unsettled.
What can mum do? Is that the question?
Yeah. So what might be the problems here, and then what could we do to help solve these problems?
Well, I don't know about this, but is there a way of getting mum's supply to increase?
Absolutely. How might we increase supply?
Is it like certain foods can help increase milk supply?
Fundamentally, no.
No.
The
Okay.
way to increase supply is to get more milk out of the breast.
Out of the breast.
That's a
supply and demand.
question you've not been able to catch up on yet, I think, won't it, from last week? So from
Yeah.
Monday. So who was here on Monday and talk to us a bit about how we're going to raise supply?
Was it the
Pumping or-
endocrine? Autocrine, isn't it? So
That's
the more-
that's the system that's going to that kicks into place to control the milk. But what can mum practically do to help increase supply?
pumping.
Pumping the milk.
Absolutely. So if baby's not taking the milk out, she could pump frequently to start to get the supply out. Absolutely. Have a look at that amount of formula. Does anyone know about how much formula a baby should have?
That's quite a lot, isn't it?
That's a big amount for
Significant
For a
amount.
2 weeks
2 week
old.
They
Yeah,
should have like 30 ml.
10, 30 ml, yeah, to
Well, at
40.
2 weeks, we'd probably be expecting baby to have maybe, if she was a formula-fed baby completely, maybe 70 to 100 ml. each,
70 to 100,
depending
yeah.
on her weight.
It's like
So
30
there's a lot
ml for every week.
So we've got a baby here who's probably being overfed. Because she's having so much formula, mum's milk supply is going down. So of course, when baby's here, there's not going to be a lot
Oh,
really used to this. So the milk supply has gone down because of this. babies become used to this, and also babies being significantly overfed at 150 ml a feed. So this baby is going to be putting on too much weight very soon. She's going to be probably sleeping longer, which mum may think is a good thing. But what we know, and we'll find out more about in our sleep module, is actually that's the SIDS risk, is sleeping longer periods. So we need to be reducing this and getting the milk supply up. So if a mum is giving that much too much formula, I'd actually want them to see their health visitor or their midwife, because that is a big discrepancy. And at this point, mum is likely to have almost lost her supply because of the amount of formula that's going in. So mum will probably need the support of an international board certified lactation consultant or a breastfeeding counsellor to actually work really hard on getting her supply back up. And although sometimes galactagogues, which are those herbs which can help supply, can play a part in that, it's absolutely not a solution. So it might be part of an overall package to take fenugreek, but just doing that will not raise supply in itself, because as we learned on Monday, the way to get more milk being made is to take more milk out. Right, okay. Going to go to a little game. So we're going to sort the sentences below into myths and facts. So, fact or myth, you can't drink alcohol when you are breastfeeding.
Myth.
Myth.
Yeah. It is true when you are pregnant that alcohol in pregnancy is a significant risk factor for fetal abnormalities.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the reason is because the alcohol in the blood goes straight through the umbilical cord into the baby. So, you know, we're not going to beat ourselves up if we had a drink at Christmas and then realised we were pregnant, but drinking frequently during pregnancy is associated with some significant risks for babies. However, alcohol whilst breastfeeding is a different matter. Just like any other medications and drugs, it does not pass through in the same way to breast milk as it did directly in the umbilical cord. It's not got that same route through. So mums can have a drink whilst they're breastfeeding. Obviously, we don't want to encourage binge drinking for anyone. We don't want to encourage mums to have so much to drink that they can't effectively look after their baby. You know, so if they're not driving home, they shouldn't be looking after a baby on their own. Definitely not bed sharing if they've had a drink, because alcohol is sleepy. But having a glass of wine or beer, you know, with your meal whilst you are still breastfeeding is not generally considered a problem. There are things mum can do. So mum could breastfeed, then have a drink, so that the alcohol is likely to have processed more by the time she is feeding again. Or she could have a drink and then feed immediately, so the alcohol hasn't had a chance to process through her system. But whereas we used to, sort of 10 years ago, suggest pump and dump, which was if you breastfed, pump the milk out and then throw it away, we don't suggest that anymore. So mums can have alcohol whilst they're breastfeeding. It's an in moderation thing. The best way to just milk supply, I don't know what I was meant to say. Judge, the best way to judge milk supply is weight gain and nappies. Is that a fact or a myth?
I'd
I
say
think it's a fact.
It is. We're not trying to count the millilitres. We're looking at what comes out of the baby. What impact does it have? Your nipples will need to toughen up.
Myth.
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 And explain to me why that's a myth, because look at those poor mums on slide 2. Didn't their nipples need to toughen up?
Because you can't toughen up nipples, really.
Yeah, what we need to do is to make sure that the nipple is not being in any place that will damage it. And we do that through a good latch. So I'm just going to turn off a thing which seems to be noisy on my other computer. Hang on. My WhatsApp's going bonkers. Let's shut it
Oh, no.
off. There we go. Right, when you're planning to breastfeed and you've just gone into labour, exciting, you should buy some formula just in case to take with you.
Myth.
Myth.
Pack, I think.
Because
One.
if it's essential, the hospital would have something.
Yeah. If you are a mum who is planning to breastfeed and you go into hospital and for whatever reason things do not go to plan, the hospital will supply that baby with formula milk. If mums are advised to have some formula just in case at home, the 3 a.m. where it's really, really shitty and it's really going badly is not the time for them to make the decision that formula milk is right for their baby. But if it's in the house, it's very, very easy to go and decide, right, that's it, this is going badly, I'm going to go to the formula. And it can be a decision that mums regret. So unless mum's living somewhere where there's really no access to shops, which isn't most of the UK, then I encourage people not to buy formula in case, because if their breastfeeding journey is needing support, first thing would be to get breastfeeding support. And if they're choosing to take a different path, doing that with thought tends to end up with a happier mum, because she knows she's made the right decision and she's thought it through. And none of us think well at 3 a.m. with a crying baby. So having the formula milk in case is generally not needed. If you've got clients on an island in Scotland, maybe you'll be giving different advice. And during that bit of COVID where there was no formula in the shops at all, that was some different advice, because
You can't use two formula at the same time.
Sorry?
You can't use two formula at the same time.
Could you say that again?
You can't use two formula at the same time.
You can't use two formulas? What do you mean?
Why do you say formula? What do you mean by that? Is it milk?
Formula is the name that is for artificial baby milk.
Okay.
So this is formula.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. There are different milks. So what about
Different milk,
different
I
milk?
think she was talking about.
I'm saying that if a mum is planning to breastfeed, then having these products in the house means she is more likely to have her own goals derailed by making a decision at 3 a.m. rather than thinking it after the night before and going either, yes, I want more breastfeeding support, or no, this is not going right for me. Let's send dad or partner out to the shop to get some formula because I've decided this isn't right.
So what I'm saying, there are different formula in a shop. Like if you start with one formula and then can you change to someone?
Oh, got you. Yeah. We're actually going to be going through all about infant formula today. So hopefully that question is going to be answered in the next few slides. You're ahead of the game. Right. Okay, let's go for another fact. Or is it a myth? Babies take the same amount of breast milk at 6 weeks and 6 months. All things being equal.
Myth.
Meat.
Is that fact?
It is
It levels out, doesn't it, at 6 weeks?
We took this on Monday.
Yeah, it levels out at 6 weeks.
Absolutely. That's what we said on
Oh,
Monday.
wow.
The breast milk goes up really fast in the first 2 weeks of supply. It continues to gain over the next few weeks to sort of about 6 weeks. But a breastfeeding mum will produce a similar amount at 6 weeks as she will to 6 months baby, where it then starts to go down because of the baby's weaning. So it's bringing additional nutrients in with food, so it'll breastfeed less.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Say, for example, she had one of those breastfeeding challenges at 8 weeks. Could she still change like her latching technique? Is it still the same process? Had she had it at 2 weeks or at 8 weeks?
Yes. So if she's established a milk supply and then there's a problem comes,
Yeah.
we still want to protect that supply, but the type of help you give to change the latch is broadly similar.
Okay.
What happens is that different babies show different challenges. So often around 4 months, the big challenge is fear of missing out, FOMO. And the baby's on the boob, off the boob, on the boob, off the boob, on the boob, the doorbell's gone, off the boob. And actually we'll be supporting mum. It's not so much the latch, but keeping baby in that place with necklace. So sometimes the challenges can differ, but how you support with a latch, like giving that flipple technique or the burger technique, those are the same, whatever age the infant is.
Okay.
But something when you're supporting mums in their earlier days of their journey, so that first 2 to 6 weeks, your focus on building supply is much more clear, because if they don't build it in the beginning, it's going to be a lot harder to make it up later on.
To maintain it, okay.
Whereas if they've got a good supply and babies stop latching, maybe they've got thrush and they're having trouble, we can just keep up that supply with pumping, but you're not trying to build it at that point.
Okay, yeah.
So a few people who hadn't listened to the Monday session yet, really surprised that breast milk, same amount at 6 weeks and 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we're used to being formula babies, aren't we?
yeah. I think
The
your
babies.
your example
with
that
that
if you are
size
going to
bottle.
force milk,
And then they get a bit bigger, they get that size bottle, and then they might even go up again. Not the same as breast milk. With breast milk, composition changes, not the amount.
Composition changes.
Which is why it's so crucial, if mums want to breastfeed, to build that supply in the first few weeks. Because if that doesn't happen, it's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult to build it later on. Not
Can I?
impossible. Yeah, question?
Can I? Yes. I just want to ask. Maybe Mike discussed this last week on Monday.
Yeah.
But I've heard of breast milk being sold online or like somewhere.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that to mothers who cannot breastfeed to start with, or
Right.
for
So
some reason they will never breastfeed their
Understood.
children?
completely understood.
Yes.
The best food for babies is their own mother's breast milk. The
Mhm.
second best food for babies is donor milk. So that's
Oh,
milk
okay.
from another mother. And
All
in
right.
the UK, if you have a premature baby that meets particular criteria, you will get that offered from a milk bank.
Ah, I see.
There are some milk banks which will support other mothers. So, for example, I've had a mum who wanted to breastfeed but also needed to have chemotherapy. It's not a nice.
Yes.
And so she
Ah.
actually went to a breast milk bank, and she was prioritised because she
Oh,
had a health
good.
condition that.
Milk
That
bank.
makes sense.
But there are many, many women who want to breastfeed for whatever reason. They're having challenges, but they don't qualify for those milk banks.
What are
Okay.
milk banks, please?
Sorry,
What is it, milk bank, please?
a milk bank is, do you know, like a food bank where people go if they haven't got enough to eat and they get
Yeah.
given food for free.
Yeah.
That, but with breast milk.
So we give the breast milk. Is the moms?
Mums who have healthy babies and a good supply may choose to donate some of their extra milk.
Oh, okay.
Some mums who have a surrogate baby, so it's not their baby, they're just a surrogate mother, may choose to continue lactating and give. Occasionally, mothers who've experienced bereavement and their baby has died choose to keep lactating and to donate that milk.
So we didn't know where the milk is coming from which mom or.
So if it's a milk bank, then you do not know the mother, but the milk bank will have done health tests and will have pasteurized the milk, just like a blood bank. So if you go to hospital, you need a blood transfusion, you do not know who that is from.
Yes,
You
yes.
do know it's been tested.
Mhm.
That is the same with the milk banks. For the mothers who do not qualify for that, because it's only a limited supply, there is informal milk sharing. So there's a Facebook group called Human Milk for Human Babies. And that is mothers getting together and saying, I have extra milk, I would like some extra milk. That milk is not tested.
Oh.
So just like if you went to Tesco's and you buy, I don't know, you buy an apple from Tesco's, you know it's come from the growers and they've done everything. If you buy it from your next door neighbour who's put some out, in a box outside, you don't know what's happened to those. You don't know if they've used pesticides on them. It doesn't say. So when women do informal milk sharing, it's up to that woman to ask questions, but there's no legislation around that. There's no testing, and most women are great, but there is no proof that they are healthy. What we do avoid is any suggestion of selling milk, and there are some companies in the UK who have now started this in the last couple of years to sell milk. The reason we would want to avoid that is when something is donated, it is less likely to have been messed around with. As soon as you make it into a product you can sell, people are likely, if they're doing it because they need the money, they're more likely to do things like watering it down or mixing it with other things because they're making money from it. And you would have to be pretty desperate to be thinking, I need money to, I will sell my breast milk to make money. And if you are that desperate because you need to feed your kids, maybe you'll mix it with cow's milk, or maybe you'll mix it with water. So selling puts another layer takes away a layer of safety.
Mm-hmm.
So we recommend, first of all, approaching milk banks, which is pasteurized and mother is tested. If not, we would say to people there is a site called Human Milk for Human Babies. But if you do that, you have to make all of the discussions around, whether this is right for you. A little bit like if you have an IVF pregnancy, if you do it through a clinic, they will do all the tests on the sperm, yes? And they'll make sure that it is from a healthy donor, no HIV. If you kind of bought sperm off the internet from some bloke selling it, there's no tests there. So it's the same level of risk there. Someone's donating something, and most mums are wonderful. I mean, I've done, myself supported a mum whose baby went into special care. They weren't eligible for breast milk donor, and mum wasn't starting lactating. And we found someone, or she found someone through this site that was in my village. So went and collected it for her, and this mum had just finished feeding her baby, and she'd got a big stash of milk in the freezer because she thought she was going back to work, chose not to go back to work. So she thought, oh, well, I'll donate it to someone who needs it. And those mums talked together and decided that was right for them. But there was no testing. So the only person taking the risk is that mum, and that mum has to understand it's her risk that she's doing that. Does that make sense?
So as
Perfect
a maternity
sense.
nurse, what would you...
Leanne, can you say that again?
I said, as a maternity nurse, like if you were with a family and she couldn't supply the milk, asked for your advice, would you advise her to go to a milk donor, or would you?
I would say the first thing she needs to do is to seek breastfeeding support, because mostly milk supply can be built.
Yeah.
If she wanted to investigate donor milk, I would send her to the Milk Bank website, the AMB website, which will tell her about milk. And if she went through that route and wasn't successful, I'll say, well, there is something called the Human Milk for Human Babies group. Here is the information. Go read about it.
Okay.
So I would never recommend it to her.
Yeah.
I would say, with all of my maternity nurse work, these are the options that are open to you.
Yeah, your options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not about, and as a breastfeeding counsellor, it's actually against my code of conduct to put people together. So I could say to a mum, like I did for this one, this exists. This is a thing.
Yeah.
For human babies.
Yeah.
She had to do all the arrangements. She had to make sure it was her decision. So it's empowering people through sharing the knowledge, not advising them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Oh gosh. You know that thing where I wasn't going to overrun? Yeah. Fact or myth? Most women produce more milk with their right breast.
Meat.
Myth.
Fact.
Myth.
Fact. It's
Fact.
a
I wanted to say fact.
See? You should have, Sally Ann. You would have been a double star today.
Exactly.
Yeah, 3/4 of women produce more milk with their right breast. It's completely
Why?
thing to have a better boob. Who's
Why?
right-handed?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, who kicks better with their right foot? Not all of us, but most of us. And it's not to say, you can't say if you're left-handed, your boob will be best on the left. It doesn't link. But 3/4 of women will produce more on the right than the left. They have a better boob. And women who've breastfed their babies into toddlerhood, the toddlers will normally say, I want that one. That one's better, mummy, because it's more productive.
Oh.
Fact.
So
when
every day.
It's always the
We've
right
got a baby who won't settle very well there, but will there, maybe that's the better boob, and we need to build supply on this side. Because as we learned on Monday, it's a locally controlled system. This one is controlled differently from this one. So if this one's not working so well, we could just try extra pumping on this side.
Okay.
So it's not like exercise where you have to be equal. You know, when you go to the gym and they're like, do an exercise on this
Yeah.
side, do it on this side. Boobs work independently. Breast milk can be left out for 4 hours at room temperature.
Fact.
Myth.
Right.
Myth.
Fact.
Oh, Fiona, are you saying fact?
Yeah.
Myth.
You are correct. Breast milk is full of antibodies which stop or prohibit the bacteria growth. So it can be left for around 4 hours, 5 hours at a push if it's not too warm, but 4 hours would be a good basis. And if you watch the video on complications for breastfeeding that I did, at the end of that, there's a chart and that has all of this information on. It's important to record the length of feeds to ensure the baby's taking in enough milk.
Meh.
Myth.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
breastfeeds can last 5 minutes to 40 minutes, different amounts of ducts, different milk capacity. Doesn't tell you anything. What tells you about how the baby's taking milk is how the baby is, not how long it's taken. So those blooming apps, start at the beginning, right breast, turn to the breast on this side. They don't tell you anything you need to know. It can be good to record the nappies, the wees and the poos, because that's a good way of finding out how much is going in. But recording the length of the
milk.
feeds, it just doesn't make any difference to anyone, and it can be quite a hassle for mum. Right, we're going to go on to
Do you go for all those paperwork like how to record all nappies, milk?
We'll go through that a little bit in the 7th session. We'll look at that.
Okay.
So when you're in charge of the baby, it's important that you keep records of what you're doing so you can pass them to the mum. But that's very different from expecting the mum to keep records, especially of things that don't matter.
Okay.
Then some mums will prefer you to use an app that they've chosen. Some mums will want you simply to use a notebook. But we will go through that on session 7. So we're going to talk about infant formula. And infant formula is the name we give to milk that is predominantly cow's milk, sometimes goat's milk, that has been changed to be more appropriate for human babies. So there are regulations in the UK and it must meet certain nutritional standards. So whether it's the milk from Aldi, which is a cheap shop, or if it's the milk from Aptamil Silver, which is probably the most expensive brand on the market, both of those have to meet the same nutritional standards. And not much guidance is given to parents, and hospitals are not allowed to recommend particular brands. So it can be really difficult for parents to know what to choose. There is some information from coming out, but that comes mostly from the people who make the milk. What problems could there be with having information from the people who make the milk?
They advise to have
Bias.
hormone instead of breastfeeding.
Follow the money is what I always say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have a reason to sell milk. Now we're going to watch a little bit of a video, and I would strongly recommend that at some point, not maybe during the course but afterwards, you watch this video in its full. It's a Channel 4 documentary. And I'm only slightly biased that it stars a friend of mine, Michelle Banks, who's a great expert. But let's have a look at this little clip. Okay, let me get this going. How do I move this? Move that across. Okay, let me share and start with a different screen. Okay, so this is a short excerpt from the documentary. Let me start this off again and put the volume back up.
It's heartbreaking to see your baby crying because she can't afford her milk. She was starving.
It says Hayley and her family have just £100 to live off every month. which means that she struggles to afford formula milk for her
My
9-month-old
partner
baby.
works, so he gets £1,000 a month, and 900 of that are bills.
How do you make £100 a month work?
Some days I just wouldn't eat. I just let my girls eat. Say if I was running out Monday or Tuesday, had to literally wait until my money hit the bank on a Wednesday.
Hayley had tried breastfeeding her babies, but they wouldn't take.
So when you were running out in the week, what did you do?
Had to make it stretch.
Would you make it up with more water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just saying the
It's
formula milk
horrendous.
should make it last more by putting more water in her baby. It says the global formula milk industry is worth £40 billion. There are dozens of products to choose from with hugely varying prices. But with widespread evidence of some parents struggling with the cost, Dispatches, the programme, asks if companies are putting profit before babies.
There's nothing to choose between them in terms of nutrition at all.
This specialist says while costs vary, most formulas are nutritionally
There
equal.
are very clear European Food Standards Agency guidelines on the maximum and the minimum levels of everything.
So this one isn't going to do my baby any better than this one or this one.
You can start with the least expensive, you can start with the most expensive.
The British Specialist Nutrition Association represents the industry. It says different formulas have different levels of ingredients. Manufacturers can add ingredients beyond the legal minimum. Formula companies spend £5 billion worldwide every year on marketing. That's £36 for every single baby born. UK formula giant Danone sells under 2 brands, Cowgate and Aptamil. Dispatches has obtained leaked documents from its UK marketing agency, revealing for every £1 they spend on marketing, they get £4 back.
When it comes to choosing formula, do you make a choice based on brand?
I do.
Yes.
We did a representative test to find out the differences behind some
Now
formulas.
that, would you believe it, is enough formula to feed your baby for 6 months. And we'll set you back £175.99. Shall we
Sainsbury's
see
job.
what £175.99 gets you for a different type of formula?
So compared
The
Sainsbury's
SMA
and
costs
SMA.
almost double.
Next up, the most expensive of all the formulas here, Aptamil Pro Futura.
That's almost 2.5 times the price of the least expensive.
And the biggest shocker of them all, they are nutritionally equal.
The BSNA say they offer a wide range of formula and many factors go into determining the price of a product. So
Interesting.
it's a really interesting documentary to watch all the way through, and it's free on Channel 4. So if you just have to sign in and like make a Channel 4 account, but then you can watch it for free.
Do they talk about non-cow's milk formula on that as well?
We'll be talking about that later today, but no, they're not looking into the differences of that. The fundamental point of that programme is that although infant formulas are marketed differently and cost very different amounts, all of them will do the same for your baby.
Right.
The money is being spent on the marketing. There are some differences. So some products might use palm oils or not, and that might be important to a mum. Some products might be organic or not, and that might be important to a mum. So there is a choice that parents may well want to make based on, what their ethical values are. Yeah. They may want a UK-based product or not. So there are those sort of choices. But what the marketing says, this one is better for your baby, is a lie. Because if there's anything the British government have worked out as best for babies, it legally has to go into every single formula. So where you see a formula that says we've added human milk polysaccharides, all that means is the thing that they're putting in hasn't yet been proven to be any good for babies. Because as soon as it's proven to be any good, all of them have to add it.
Okay.
But that's a whole different course. The politics of breastfeeding is a whole different course.
So the cheap one and expensive one is the same.
Yeah, it will do exactly the same for your baby.
The same,
There are some differences in ingredients. So say it might have palm oil, it might be organic. But in terms of safety and nutrition for the baby,
It's the same.
by the same, yeah.
Okay.
And things like
Normally, if it's more expensive, it's supposed to be more better than the cheapest one.
you would expect so, wouldn't you?
Yes, because like you can't buy like Ralph Lauren clothes and Primark.
Yeah.
The quality is different.
But if you buy a Louis Vuitton bag, that's going to set you back, what, £3,000?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Is it going to last £3,000 more time in terms of its, you know, how well it's made?
Yes.
Really?
No, no.
No.
They're all
Depends what
made
you're
in, made, you know, with,
Better.
yeah. So a lot of it is about the look. Like some bags sell for more because they're designer, i.e. we want those products because of the label.
And the quality as well.
And the
Like
quality.
the last 10 years,
Yeah, true.
but Primark.
But only for something. So comparing Primark to designer is probably wrong, but you could get
Yeah.
a standard leather handbag versus a design leather handbag, and
Yeah.
they're both going to last the same.
Yeah.
amount of
Yes,
time.
exactly.
Yeah. That's a better analogy.
Yeah.
So, but with infant milks, they are all nutritionally equal. They all have to have the same stuff in that's good for babies and the same low level of stuff that's bad for babies. So the most expensive is not best for baby.
That's the one I chose before, the
And the
expensive
same
one.
manufacturer makes Aptamil and Cow and Gate. And if
Yeah.
you actually look at the marketing, they're marketing to two very different types of people, but the same people are making them, and it's fundamentally the same milk. Packaging is different. So yeah, that £36 per child is big. So going back to what we said on Monday about that kind of breast is best, fed is best politics issue, breastfeeding does not have this amount of money spent on it in terms of promoting it from the government. So anything that's about supporting breastfeeding has to be set against the £36 every child has spent on it to try and make them into a formula baby. So it's big. Right. So where do you go for unbiased advice? Because you can't go to the manufacturers. And very interesting, the manufacturers all have breastfeeding helplines. So you can go to your Cow and Gate breastfeeding helpline. Who do you want to support you with breastfeeding? Someone who wants to sell you formula. So you can go to a website called First Steps Nutrition, and all of this will be on the site. Yeah. They've actually launched a new site called Infant Milk Info, and they're a charity. They're an unbiased, independent charity run by experts. They don't take any money from the formula industry, but they do go into all of the compositions of the milk. So if you go in there under the healthcare badge, there's a, are you a parent, are you a healthcare worker? If you go into that on the healthcare worker, you'll be able to see everything that's in every single infant milk and look at the comparisons. So you'll be able to see for yourself what is in there and what levels. So what they say what infant milk what infant formula should I choose? And it says it doesn't matter which brand you use, they're all very similar. It doesn't matter if you choose cow's or goat's milk formula. Who had that question? Who was asking about goats earlier? Leanne, was that you?
I think
No, it was
Fiona.
Leanne.
You asked if they covered goat's milk on the documentary.
Yes, that was
No,
it.
it wasn't goat's milk. It was cat. Oh, yeah, technically.
Yeah.
I kind of meant no. I meant no dairy at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Got ya. Lots of maternity nurses will say, "Oh, go for goat's milk formula. It's closer to breast milk." That's not true. Many will say, "Go for goat's milk formula. It's easier to digest." That's also just not true.
They
are
also
both
say that
the same.
soya as well, don't they? That
So what-
you shouldn't go to soya either. The doctor, because I'm
Absolutely.
an
Yeah.
allergist with a baby, and they
If
said,
you're, if you're
Don't go.
likely to be dairy, if your baby seems to be dairy intolerant, has a cow's milk protein allergy, they will also have a goat's milk protein allergy, and they are very likely to have a soya protein allergy. So yeah, again, the allergies, it's all in the same field. But no, the whole goat's milk is better is marketing bull.
okay.
What about, oh, so yeah, but talk to your midwife or health visitor before choosing a soya-based formula. Soya may be an option over 6 months for allergic babies, maybe. Under 6 months, it should not be used because I forget the word, photophosphates. There's a word like that I have to look up every time. It's basically a chemical in them, in the soya, which mimics sex hormones, and it can do damage to younger babies. It can do damage to older babies, but just not as much. So soya milk is something that's only 6 months plus, and only when you've spoken to a healthcare professional. Next question is, what about all the other milks that claim to help hungry babies or to prevent colic, or wind or reflux or allergies? And First Steps Nutrition say there is no evidence that most of these special milks do any good. Again, marketing. But they might not be safe for your baby. Ask the midwife or health visitor if you think your baby needs a different milk. So if you've got a baby that's really unsettled and you're thinking, well, maybe they should try one of these milks, it's important that you go to the health visitor, because most of them, it's a triumph of marketing over substance, marketing over evidence. Next question is, should I move to follow-on formula when my baby's 6 months? And the NHS is clear on this. There is no need for follow-on formula. Stick to first infant formula for the first year. Does anyone know why follow-on formula was invented? Was it to help 6-month-old babies?
No.
No. These felt 6-month-old babies, you need something special, so I'm going to create something just you're perfect.
No, it's because women wanted to work and they had
No, because they could go to work and just give their babies in first infant formula.
Industrial revolution? No.
The reason they invented it is because there are some, there's not many, but there are some rules about marketing infant formula to mums. And those rules cover first infant formula, which used to be all there ever was. There was just formula. And then you moved to cow's milk. And in about 1984, the formula companies went, right, so the rules apply to first infant formula. If we create a product called second infant formula or follow-on milk, those rules won't apply to us. So the product was purely created to allow the manufacturers to get around the rules on advertising. So it's a bit like if, you know, cigarette advertising has been banned for how long? God, since I was a teenager, probably. It's as if they invented something that was called, you can't believe it's not cigarettes. And then after that, but it was still like full of nicotine and tar. But it was like, oh no, it's not cigarettes, it's something not cigarettes. It's as if they've done that for milk.
Like a vape.
So, like a vape pen then.
But with worse stuff in it.
Or the e-cigarettes when they first came out.
Yeah.
They still had nicotine and everything, didn't they?
Yeah. So they literally, the formula manufacturers invented follow-on formula to get around the rules on advertising. And they still break loads of rules on advertising, but this is their big way of getting around it. So there is no nutritional value, and the NHS is clear. So you need to be clear as maternity nurses. There is no reason to change to follow-on milk. Full stop.
Okay.
Some things are parental preference, and you'll be like, well, there's this and there's this. You know, you'll give them the options.
Yeah.
And some things you're like, this is still your option, but this is the NHS advice, and this is one of them. No need for follow-on. So what should a baby drink? So breast milk is a first choice for a baby in terms of what the baby needs. And we've talked through about donor milk as well. A first stage infant formula can be used up to 12 months. And this is all from the First Steps Nutrition website. Hungry baby milk, not recommended. They basically have put some cereal in it to make the baby feel full up for longer. That's not appropriate for babies under 6 months, and over 6 months they can be having cereal. Specialist milk such as anti-reflux or colic milk, they actually say on the packet in tiny letters, should be used under medical supervision. They sell them in Tesco's. So if a baby may need an anti-reflux or a comfort milk, you should not be going, yeah, sure, let's do that. You should be saying to the parent, if so, if that's what your baby needs, let's go to the health visitor and have a chat with them, because it should only be used under medical supervision. One of the reasons is because there's different stuff in them, and particularly with those anti-reflux milks, because they're thicker, they then cannot be made up to safe infant guidelines. We'll go over the infant guidelines later. So because they're thicker, they have to be made up with cooler water, which doesn't kill the bacteria in the milk powder. So is a balance between is this right for the baby and what are the extra risks, which is why you do not want to be carrying the can for that decision. Health visitor or GP should be involved. Goat's milk infant first formula. It's not more similar to breast milk. It's not more easily digested, and it's not less allergenic. But it's a perfectly valid choice if it's a first infant milk. It's either or, cows one, goats one. The goats ones are more expensive. If parents like goats more, fine, but it's not any better. It's just another perfectly okay choice. Soy-based formula only under medical supervision because of these, and I wrote it down, phytoestrogens, that was the word I was looking for. Phytoestrogens, which cause the health concern with the sex hormones. And as Leanne said, many babies with a dairy allergy are also allergic to soy anyway. Cow's milk, or similar to that, calcium fortified soya or calcium fortified nut milk or oat milk, should only be used from 12 months as a drink. From 6 months, it can be used in cooking, like with your cereal or to make custard. But from 12 months, that's when you can change from formula if your baby isn't breastfed to having one of those milks. And then vegan milk, you might ask about vegan. No such thing in the UK. Because the vitamin D that's added into formula milk is sourced from wool. So if you're vegan, that would be against your ethical choice. So there isn't a vegan milk within the UK. There are some vegetarian, there are some halal, but there is not vegan. Any questions on that? And the reason that with that vitamin D is added to all formulas because we know it's good for babies. We would, the NHS would advise breastfeeding mums to take and to give their babies a vitamin D supplement from birth. And that's because, not because breast milk isn't as good as formula, they add it into the formula as well. It's because we stopped living in nice warm climates with our tops off and working out in the fields all day. And we've moved into lovely houses with central heating and less sunlight, and we bundle up our babies and ourselves. So we don't get as much vitamin D as we all should. So that's why
do formula milk as well with the vitamin D supplement too.
If your baby is taking more than 500 mils of formula a day, they will get as much vitamin D as they need through the formula because it's been added in there. If they're either fully breastfed or they're receiving just top up, so less than 500 mil, baby should have vitamin D top up.
Interesting.
Yeah, all of us apparently are vitamin D deficient. So. Yeah, we should all get out more. Right, do you break anyone?
No.
All good?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm okay.
in the second scenario, we talked about how much formula that baby was having.
Yeah.
And decided that 150 was quite a lot. Here is some guidelines around infant formula. So what should they be drinking? Powdered or ready mixed. So these are the two options for infant formula. These are both Cow and Gate, and there are lots of other brands available. This was just what happened to be in my local co-op today. Fundamentally the same product. This one is a lot more expensive though, the liquid, than the formula. It can be a lot easier to deal with, but it's a lot more expensive. There is no evidence at the moment that ready mixed is easier to digest. Some people think that it is, and it's one of those worth a try to know there's not enough evidence yet. I think it's something that might be coming, that actually we find this is slightly easier to digest because of the way it's made, but that's not an evidence-based decision yet. The research hasn't yet been done. But there are quite a few lactation consultants who, if a baby's having trouble with their digestion, will suggest first of all a change to ready-made. See if it works. Different ingredients we've covered. They'll all meet the same nutritional needs. And then what to use? Bottle feeding, you'll expect. But for a tiny baby, you can also cup feed or syringe feed, or use a supplemental nursing system, which is where you have a bottle of expressed or formula milk held upside down, a little tube that goes to the boob, and baby latches on. So it's breastfeeding, working on their sucking skills, but it's also receiving additional milk through the tube. And again, if mum's doing that, that's something that a lactation consultant would be supporting with rather than you, but good to know they're out there. How much? In the early days, we generally go on weight. So 150 to 200 ml per kilo of baby per 24 hours. So a 2 kilogram baby will have about 300 to 400 ml of formula a day. That's a tiny baby. 4 kilo baby will have 600 to 800 millilitres a day. So that's how we measure it in the early days, is by kilo. And then this guide is a good sort of a guide of, you know, where to look at your averages to see, am I in the right ballpark here? Because all babies are different. We all eat different amounts. Babies eat different amounts, but these are good ballparks of roughly how many feeds if you're formula feeding. Breastfed babies will feed more frequently, and roughly how much intake they should have. This is probably one of the snapshots I have on my phone that I use most with babies. Well, not with babies, they can't read, with mums and dads. The babies, they don't care. So the snapshot of the age and how much I use very frequently, just to check up and see, does this feel the right sort of amount for the baby? Because there's a big old tendency with formula feeding to want to get to the next stage, to want to, oh, I'll add another ounce. Oh, she's eating that, I'll add another ounce. And actually, the more frequently you give a baby a large amount of milk, the more their stomach will stretch. So if I fed you a roast dinner for every meal, you get bored, yes, but also you'd be getting sort of in the habit of having a roast dinner. So if I then gave you a salad, you'd be like, this is not a meal anymore. So you know how you feel after the Sunday lunch, you're like, oh my God, I could not eat another thing apart from that dessert. You know, your stomach can stretch. Same with a baby. And if the baby is consistently having a large amount of milk, their stomach will stretch and it won't feel full until it's, you know, full at that stretched capacity. And then you'll give it a bit more milk, so it'll stretch a bit. So it's really good to have this, you know, sort of information around, to be just double checking, is this the right ballpark for this baby's weight and age? And if not, let's chat to mum and chat to the health visitor about what we can do about this, which might be a gentle reduction, or it might be just waiting for the baby's age to catch up with the amount, but then not adding more. So one to talk about with a health visitor. Any questions on how much they should drink? No. It's one of those things just to have on you and refer to frequently, because you won't remember the amounts. Much clearer than me. I don't remember them.
I don't know why, but I used ounces.
Yep. And that's absolutely fine. This is in millilitres, and that's how I work now. And your hospitals work in millilitres. Many mums still work in ounces. So make yourself a copy of this in ounces. You know, translate it once into ounces. Share it with us, and then do it in ounces. Absolutely fine. It can be more precise in the millilitres rather than 6.5 or 6 3/4. That's I think why. But. So, making formula safely. Again, one of the most contentious things you'll find on maternity nurse forums is how to make up milk. And it shouldn't be contentious, because the UK guidelines are really, really clear. You go against the UK guidelines and that baby gets sick, you are going to be deemed negligent and your insurance will not be covering you. You'll be invalidating it. So it is not the time to say, but I've always done it like this and my babies didn't get sick, or my mum did this with me and I was fine, because we have really clear UK guidance on this that we need to stick to. So, how to make a formula bottle. Always washing your hands, not just COVID, all the way through this procedure. Obviously, hand hygiene. We make up feeds one at a time, if at all possible, and that is to minimise the bacterial growth while stored. So as soon as that feed has been made up, bacteria will start to grow in it. It doesn't have the same antibacterial properties as breast milk. So we're going to start to multiply bacteria. And what multiplies bacteria best? Warm. Environments. Do this one at a time to make sure we're reducing that risk. Sterilising and washing, obviously, to reduce infection. Using water from the cold tap into the kettle freshly boiled, not using the water that is in the kettle already. So the reason for that is reboiled water can concentrate minerals. and make the mineral amounts too large for the baby's stomach to handle. So if you had a full kettle, made up a bottle, boiled it again, made up a bottle, boiled it again, made up a bottle, by the time you've got to the second or third bottle, that water's been boiled several times, which has concentrated the minerals, and that might make little baby ill. Also, we don't use bottled water because it has a higher mineral content, particularly sodium or sulfate. We use water from the tap in the UK. If you're traveling abroad and there may be some issues with tap water, or your family are very uncomfortable with that, if you have to use bottled water and then boil it, you're looking for low sodium, low sulfate waters, and I've written down the guidance for what you're trying not to go above. So it's not that these are okay, it's like this is lessening the risk by trying to go for low sodium, low sulfate water. But mineral water is called mineral water for a reason, because it's full of minerals, and that's not actually great for babies. So we boil at least a litre of water. And we do at least a litre so it stays hot long enough. If you just boil a tiny amount, because you're making, you're making a 3-ounce bottle, in Leanne's terms, 3 ounces, not 90 ml. If you only boil that to 100, by the time you've actually poured it in, it's going to be well under 70 because it's only a tiny amount of water. It doesn't retain the heat. So we boil at least a litre of water to make sure that it retains heat. The retaining heat thing is the most, or the least understood thing in infant formula. So I'm going to go through this really, really clearly. The stuff in here is not sterile. The stuff in here may have microorganisms, pathogens, bacteria. If you make the formula up with cold milk and this, or warm milk and this, it's not going to kill any of the nasties that may be in the formula. So we use water that is over 70 degrees to kill nasties in the formula. That's the point. That's why we don't boil water, put it into a bottle and cool it and then use it later, because that will not kill anything in that formula. This stuff is currently sterile because it's been pasteurized, heat treated, and then bottled. So this is sterile until we open it up. But this stuff isn't sterile to start with. And there have been outbreaks, particularly in France recently, and France is a country that has different guidance for formula, and they make it up with cool or warm water, not hot, where they've had outbreaks of Corobacter. It's a nasty bacteria name, a bit like Salmonella, similar to that, where babies were having milk that had this bacteria in, and because it wasn't sterilized or pasteurized rather by adding the hot water, the babies got sick. American mums, if you work with American mums, they'll have a real issue over this because the CDC in America is not yet published guidelines that it has to be, their formula has to be made up with water over 70 degrees. So they'll be like, why are you doing this? This is madness. The UK in this particular area is at the leading forefront of health education, and other countries are going to have to catch up. And they will catch up because there are going to be other outbreaks. But we're in the UK, we're UK based, our insurance is with UK insurers. So we're going to keep the UK guidance. So we want to make up a formula with water that is over 70 degrees. So how do we do that? We boil the kettle with a litre of water, new from the tap, and then we either use it pretty much straight away. You might not want to use it that second because pouring boiling water is a danger to yourself and others, but we are going to use it pretty quickly and no more than 30 minutes later. And you can spend lots of time if you want with kettles and thermometers, and actually if you leave it for 30 whole minutes it may well have dipped down below the 70, but so using it much quicker than that is a good idea, but 30 minutes is sort of the absolute baseline of it. Should still be just about hot enough to kill the nasties. So boil the kettle, wait a moment so you're not pouring boiling water over yourself or cracking a glass bottle if you've got glass, but then pour it into the bottle. When you've got, say you're doing a 3-ounce feed, so you're up to the 3-ounce line of just boiled water, then you add the powder in. You don't start with the powder in here because if you put powder in here and then add up to the 3 ounce line, you've not added 3 ounces of water. You've
It's not
only-
enough water.
So we put water first, powder on
And then the milk.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when you swirl it around to mix it together, you actually end up with slightly over a 3 ounce feed. It's, you know, there's actually more in there because you've added more formula. But that is how you make it up. So the other bits are, if you've got sterilized stuff, don't rinse it under the tap, because then you're putting tap water on that hasn't been boiled, which might have some nasties in it.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I used to just boil warm water and put it there. So when I'm making a bottle, I'll put hot water and my cool water, which I've boiled before. Is it allowed?
It isn't what's recommended.
Yeah.
So we're going to only go through the recommended way.
Okay.
Yep.
Caroline, can I just ask?
Yeah,
please.
Is that Sally-Ann? Yeah.
Yes. My sister has this a machine that makes formula. Yes, exactly. So it's you put in the formula first, and then hot water is included, and then later cold water comes in. So you were just saying we still need to boil the water that all of it.
Machines have some significant health risks attached, and health visitors do not recommend them.
Okay.
And I'm not making any judgments on your sister, because she knows how she was. But as a maternity nurse, speaking professional to professional, we do not recommend them. The reason is, one, because there has been evidence of mold in the tubes, even when they've been appropriately cleaned. Two, there is no evidence that the hot shot, which they put in a small amount of the water, don't they, stays at 70 degrees long enough to kill the bacteria.
Yeah.
So when you've got particularly a small bottle where you're putting only 3 scoops and 3 ounces, they're not putting in 3 ounces even of hot water. They're only putting in 1 and making it up with cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So strong likelihood that there is not enough hot water in there to kill the nasties in the bacteria, and that it's not stayed hot enough.
You know what? I've actually just learned now, because I thought it's quite a good machine. I'm sure she don't know as well. I'll tell her.
Yeah.
But
what I'll do, Sally-Ann, is I will send you over the report that was done on them, and then she can make the right decision for her.
Yes.
Because that's not you saying don't use it, because you know it's her choice. But you're saying, I learned this, I'm letting you know.
Yeah.
And same with your clients. They can then make their own decisions. But we do have some serious concerns that they don't keep the water hot enough to actually mix with the powder to kill any nasties in it.
Okay.
Good. And you've got water sitting there. It's not freshly boiled. So there's lots of things why we wouldn't recommend those machines.
Okay, good.
So, sorry, quickly, it's been my video's been cutting out a bit. I think my internet's
That's okay, it's Leanne there, isn't it? So I've got some people have got their photos off and I can't see people talking.
Yeah, sorry, I turned it off because my internet.
No worries.
So you boil the water and then you almost immediately put it in the bottle and mix it with the formula and then leave it to cool.
We get to that bit. We'll get to that bit. So you can water just boiled, leave it for a bit, and you can leave it up to 30 minutes, but you know, sooner rather than later. Put it in, add the formula in, then put the teat on and the remaining the retaining ring. So that is these 2 bits here. So ideally, we've got our washed hands, we've got our bottle, water formula. We're going to take the very edge of the teat with our washed hands and put the teat on. Then we're going to take the retaining ring, holding it at the outside, and put the retaining ring on, and then squid it shut. You might, if you've been taking things out of the sterilizer, have already put these 2 together with your washed hands.
Yeah.
It depends on the bottle, you know, how easy it is to do it those ways. So then we're going to close that up. We're going to put the cap on. Okay. Yeah, is that the right one? There we go. Then we're not going to shake it, because if we shake it, we're going to
if you shake it, because it's too hot.
Yes. Yeah. Don't want to put more air in.
Spill.
Don't put air into a baby. Once we're sure it's all completely mixed together, we're going to cool the bottom of the bottle under a running cold tap.
Okay.
We're going to make sure that the tap water doesn't go here at the seal, because we don't want tap water getting in, because that could have some nasties in. So you can cool it under the tap. Some people will cool it in a, standing in a jug. I'm going to cool it down before we give it to that baby. And when we think it's cool enough, we're going to check here on our wrist. That's super sensitive. This is less sensitive. This is very, very sensitive. And we're aiming for blood temperature. Pretty much, if you put it on and you can't feel it, that's the right temperature, because it's blood temperature. If you feel it and it's hot, it's too hot for the baby. If you feel it and it's cool, that's not a problem. The baby might well take it like that, but we don't want it too hot, because we don't want to burn the baby. So, some key facts on making up that bottle. Formula powder is not sterile. Use water that's 70 degrees or hotter, and be aware that other countries may not have this practice, but you are UK trained, so you will do this. And if your mums are using a Tommee Tippee Tweet machine, you'll be going, yeah, absolutely fine. If they want you to use that machine and you are comfortable to do so, they will need to put a disclaimer in your contract. So you'll need to write in, me, Leanne, mum of baby Jane, acknowledges that Habiba, my maternity nurse, should use the Tommee Tippee machine under my authorization. I understand that this is against UK guidance. Signature. So you are protecting yourself. And many mums will just go, no, it's okay. You do it your way. I'll do it mine. And that's fine. That's their baby. They can do what they want.
So can I ask a question?
Yep. Is that Claudia?
Yeah. I saw some parents, they put in the microwave. I think it's wrong, but
Absolutely wrong. You're completely right. We do not heat up formula in microwaves, or breast milk actually, because microwaving can create hot spots. Even if you're swirling it afterwards, there's a danger that there's a hot spot in there and you're going to burn that baby's tongue.
But is that the only reason? There's no radiation reason or anything like that?
It's about hot spots. Okay. No radiation reason, because we will use the microwave to sterilize.
Yeah.
So microwaves are fine for other things, but just like when you put your lasagna in and you're like, oh, it's fine. You're like, oh my God, there's that bit that's really hot. You do that to a baby, you are in A&E. So Claudia, you are absolutely right to avoid microwaves. Making up feeds in advance is to be discouraged. So like I said, that we make them up to one at a time, because then we're giving the bacteria the least amount of time to grow. If you have to go out, so you can't do that, because got to go to the doctor's, got to go on a day trip. The best way to do it is to take a thermos flask, put just boiled water in here, so it's over 70 up to the top. Use this when you're out and about and do it exactly the same way. Thermos flask of hot water in, formula powder in, swirl under a cold tap or in a cold tap. If this is not possible and it's absolutely necessary for you to make up feeds in advance, make the feed up, as we've said, with just boiled water, swirl, 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 immediately into the back of the fridge, the top shelf, the coldest space. So you're going straight from hot into the back of the fridge. That is going to minimize the amount of time the bacteria can regenerate. Yeah? It's not recommended. It's the least best option. So we're balancing there what we have to do, because for whatever reason, we're going on I can't imagine, because you're going on a flight, you can take it, but for a reason that I can't yet remember, you have to take some formula with you. And yeah, that's the way to do it. But there are risks involved in that. So you're telling the mum, this is not what we do normally. We're balancing your needs of us having to know and the safety for the baby.
And say if a mum insists, say you've arrived and she says that she wants to use bottled water.
And you would explain why it's really good to use tap water. You'd explain that if you choose bottled water, that she needs to try and find one that's under those sodium and sulfate levels, and you'd write the disclaimer in.
Yeah, disclaimer.
And it's aware that using tap water UK guidance, and she authorises Habiba to make her bottles up with this brand of tap water.
Yeah.
And I did that in Saudi because the family didn't trust the water, and they wanted to use bottles. So we worked really carefully, and we found a sort of a 0.005 sodium bottled water. put it in the contract. So if anything did happen to that baby, they'd sign to say that's what their choice was.
Yeah.
So you will cover
Yeah.
yourself.
Is that Bella?
Yeah.
Yep. Hi.
No, that's why I said.
I had a question. Sorry.
No. That's why I said if they document it and then they sign it, so you will cover yourself anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever happened.
Liquid formula. Once you open this is sterile. So this could be used straight away. It doesn't have to be in the fridge beforehand. Once you've opened it, you've poured some out and you've got some left. Cap on, back of the fridge top shelf. Use within 24 hours.
You need to warm this, no? Straight.
Sorry, say that again.
Do you need to warm this, this formula?
You can warm it, but many babies will take it at room temperature.
Okay, can you do when you go out to use the liquid one at home, use the powder? Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think you asked earlier about swapping. You can absolutely swap between formulas.
Oh yeah.
They're all fundamentally the same.
Okay.
So yeah. So if you want to use one liquid out and powder in, absolutely fine. If mum's breastfeeding and sometimes using formula, absolutely fine. You can mix and match between them. And so these are very expensive, but they are super useful. And some babies will really, really want their formula warmed, but many babies, as long as it's room temperature, won't be particularly bothered. So if I was, with one of those babies, I might take a few of these out, sealed, and then just feed it, put it in the bottle and feed it straight away. Or put it in the bottle, warm it slightly, and then feed it. And if I'm out and about warming, obviously no microwaves, as we know, I'm going to put a cup of hot water, not boiling, but hot, and then put that bottle into that cup of hot water. And that's a good way to warm up a feed.
And how does the ready-made ones stay sterile?
They're sterile until the moment you open them.
Would that be the same, for example? Well, no, formula, I suppose, is already opened, the packet.
Yeah, but even when this is closed, this isn't sterile.
Oh, yeah.
This can come to you and have pathogens in it because of the processes in the factory. Whereas, although they've fundamentally done the same thing and they've mixed some powder with water in the factory, they've then heat treated this and bottled it straight away.
Okay.
So it's been pasteurized.
So as soon as you open it, it starts to build bacteria.
Yes. But because when you open it, this is not warm when you open it. You have minimized bacterial growth by not having a warm thing.
Yeah.
So you open it, put some in, and you put it straight in the fridge. That's then good for 24 hours.
Yeah.
You just think about normal, if you had a cup of milky tea, yeah? If you actually, you warm it up and you leave it on the side, the milk in that tea is going to start to grow bacteria.
Yeah.
Where if you put some cow's milk in your tea, put the thing back on and put your cow's milk back in the fridge, that milk grows bacteria at a much, much slower rate because it's never been warmed. But the milky tea, because it's warmed up, is going to grow that bacteria.
Okay.
Caroline?
Yes, Sally-Ann.
On the formula, when it's made, maybe I might have missed this. Suppose baby drinks a bit and
we haven't.
Leaves it.
Brilliant question.
Yeah. So after, how long does that formula have to last before you can say I can't use it?
We will go on roughly, if you've made up a feed and it hasn't touched baby's lips, maximum 2 hours.
Okay.
But within that 2 hours, the bacteria are growing. My personal cutoff is an hour.
Okay.
But 2 hours is the generally accepted guidance.
Okay.
As soon as that has touched baby's lips, the bacteria in baby's mouth has then backwashed into this milk. So you've now got warm milk with bacteria in it and some new bacteria. That's going to start growing exponentially. So as soon as the feed started, you want to be finishing that feed within an hour or throwing it away.
Okay.
And a baby should have fed within an hour. So, and if you badly misjudged your timings, the baby just didn't wake up, throw this away, make a new one. It's not worth the hassle. But we think 2 hours without it having been touched, but I feel uncomfortable at that length of time. So my personal rule is around an hour, and I'll be like, nah, let's not do that anymore.
And about the formula, if you change it, you don't need the the PEDIA advice
No,
for the
if you are
formula? No?
changing from one first infant formula to another, so not a specialist milk, you've just gone from Tesco's to Cow and Gate, or Cow and Gate to Aptamil, or Aptamil to Aldi. You just do it. You just change.
Because in the
They're all
Philippines,
the same. You don't
because
think
in the Philippines, we need to ask the PEDIA first before we change the formula.
so that is not the same in the UK. And
Okay.
I'm no expert on the way that formula is manufactured in the Philippines, so I won't comment on that.
That's
But
why
in
I'm
the UK,
thinking
because
you can just change it anytime you
formulas have
want.
fundamentally the same stuff in them, parents can swap between them. So if a parent was on Cow and Gate and then it ran out in the shops, fine, go to Aldi. If that runs out of the shops, go to Tesco. It doesn't harm the baby. Some babies will seem to do better on one formula than another. Just like some of us, you know, I mean, who's a broccoli fan? You know, yeah, me. Who, you know, who's not? Is there a reason for that? Not really.
No.
You know, we just like different things. So sometimes babies will seem to settle on a formula and they seem happier on it. A lot of the time when parents change formula, it's parental expectation. It's, you know, does everybody know what I mean by the placebo effect?
Yes. Yes.
So that's the idea that actually you can give people sugar pills, and if you tell them they're medicine, it works sometimes. Not all the time. It's not going to cure you of cancer. But there are some experiments about pain where I think they had some men firemen put their hands into cold water, some like iced water. And the men who were given tablets were able to hold their hands in water longer because they thought they were painkillers. The men who were given blue tablets were able to hold in longer because coloured tablets, subconsciously, we think works better. The people who were given saline in a drip in their arm and were told it was an intravenous painkiller, they were there for ages. And that was all the power of the mind. I mean, they were fine. They weren't being harmed. They'd all signed up for the experiment. And it showed that actually what you think is going to work often works. So I'd say it's not a cure for cancer, but with little things. You know, I remember being told as a child, you know, if I sat on newspaper, then I wouldn't feel car sick. And because the person who told me ran my Red Cross nursing group, I believed her. I was okay. Power of thought works a lot of the time. So many parents, when they swap a formula because their friend has told them that it's best for their baby, or they've seen the advertising, or their not very well trained maternity nurse has told them that all of her babies do better on Kendamil, they'll believe it and it will work because they won't see the signs that they were seeing before. But actually, the evidence shows you can feed that baby most things and it will be fine. Okay, so make formula safely, add formula to the water, not the water to formula. That can make sure we've got the right mix. Okay. So feeding formula safely. So we've made it all up and now we need to feed it to the baby. And we're going to use a technique called paste feeding. This is now recognised to be the best way to bottle feed a baby. And it doesn't matter what's in this bottle. It could be milk from the breast, or it could be milk from formula. Can I tell hands up of who has heard of paste feeding? Who am I talking to and goes, yep, do this. This is all right. You can go on a loo break then, Alethea. So, first of all, of course, with the milk, if we've warmed it, we're going to check the temperature on our wrist to make sure it's okay. The aim of this paste feeding is to make the experience as much like breastfeeding as possible. That's of course important if the mum is also breastfeeding, because we want to make sure the baby has the most chance to go back to the boob. It's also just as important for babies who are only formula fed, because we want to make their life experience as close to breastfeeding as possible, because there are many benefits from that. So I'm going to hold them upright for this. And that is because we know that when we hold babies like that and bottle feed them, they've got to drink or drown. That if I hold a bottle full of milk like that, it's going to drip out, right?
Drip,
It's going to keep dripping. Nothing's going to stop it dripping. So if the baby's there, what did it have to do?
Nothing.
You have to put it slanting, the bottle.
What does the baby have to do? If I do this, what must the baby do with the milk dripping out?
Open his mouth.
Must keep. if it's in the mouth, must keep swallowing, keep swallowing, keep swallowing, because if they don't swallow, it's going to go down the wrong way, they'll drown. So this does not give baby any opportunity to stop. And also, it's allowing the milk to wash over those ears, which we know could be the cause of ear
The
infection.
milk will spill, yeah, go to her ear.
So, I mean, actually inside, because of the way the bones are, the milk will go down, actually affects the inner ear inside, and that can cause ear infections. So we'll hold the baby upright. We're going to interest the baby in the milk. We're not just going to shove the milk in. We're going to say, would you like some milk now? And just like you tickle the nipple just around the mouth to make the baby gape, we're going to do that to the baby. Do you want some milk now? So I'm going to, yes, I want some milk, yes. So we're not going to shove the teat in. We're going to wait for the baby to go, yes, I do want it. We're going to hold the bottle just over horizontal. So that's horizontal. So we're just tipping it a little bit over. And we want this bit of the teat here to be full of milk. We don't want this to be air and milk, because that will just put air in the baby. We don't need the whole thing full, just this bit full. Okay. We're going to use a paste technique. So that means we're going to give the baby a little bit of milk, and we're not just going to keep going. We're going to tip the bottle back down like this. As soon as I tip the bottle back, the baby's still happy because they're going like they would on a dummy, but they're not receiving milk. And that's most like breastfeeding, which is not just whoosh for the whole time. After that initial letdown, baby has to do some work, might stop, the milk stops. Do some work, stop, the milk stops. And that enables baby to actually think about their tummy and think, do I feel full? And if this isn't a conscious thought, the baby doesn't think those words, but it gives the baby the opportunity to actually feel their tummy, and their tummy to give a response back to the brain to say, I'm full. Because if you just do this and keep going, the baby will keep going, because the baby's natural instinct is to suck. That is one of their key instincts. So they'll just keep going. So this gives the baby the opportunity to say, would you like some more? You would? Okay, let's give you some more. And I'm going to talk to the baby all the way through the feed, because I want to bond with this baby and I want to make sure they're okay. So I'm not going to be watching telly. I'm going to be watching the baby for their little cues. And I'm going to be watching to see if they're, if they're finished or not. And I might think, actually, I know this baby, and I know this baby's going to need a little burp. So I'm going to put them up onto my right shoulder, right head on the right shoulder, body across the body, and just give them the opportunity to have a little burp. Good girl. Then I'm going to put them in the other arm. Just like a breastfed baby, they will go to both sides. We're going to allow the formula-fed baby to go to either side. Many people will only feed with, like I'm right-handed, will only feed with the bottle in their right hand. That means baby is only ever turning this way to feed. And this is like exercise in the gym. They're only using the muscle that way. So let's give babies muscles the opportunity to work this way as well. So I'm now going to feed with my offhand. Do you like some? You would. Just above horizontal. After about ½ an ounce to an ounce, dependent on the size and the age of the baby, drop it down. And I'm going to watch again to see, is this baby still hungry? Or are they splaying their fingers and toes? Are they starting to turn their head away or push the bottle out of their mouth? If they are, they're telling me that that feed is finished. Okay, there's still milk in the bottle. Is that a problem?
No.
No, because we're looking at how much the baby takes over 24 hours. And if the baby is taking the right amount of milk according to that chart and their weight, over 24 hours, we're fine. Do you all eat for every meal 2 Weetabix?
No.
Do you sometimes have for breakfast a slice of toast, sometimes a little bit of fruit, and sometimes a full English? Babies are humans too. Sometimes they're hungry, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they want a bit more milk because they're feeling a bit thirsty. Sometimes they're feeling full. Sometimes they've got a bit of a tummy ache and don't want as much. So as long as baby is taking the right amount over 24 hours, we're not trying to finish that bottle. And that's what most formula feeding people, parents will do. It's come on, this last little bit. What you as a maternity nurse will be doing is watching that baby and sharing the signs with the parents. Oh, can you see that Jane's now pushing her fingers apart and splaying them like that with and her toes as well? That's one of the signs that shows us that she's ready to finish this feed. So you're going to be showing the parents, oh, look, can you see how she's pushing it out of her mouth? We're going to listen to her now, and that seems like the end of the feed. Reassure them, that's fine that there's some left in the bottle. We're just going to throw that away. We are going to record how much she's had and look over 24 hours and check that that's an appropriate amount. A really good thing for new parents is to put a sock over the end of the baby bottle. That then stops them looking at the amount and keeps them looking at the baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe obsess over it a little.
It is human nature to look at the numbers. It is really difficult to not go, oh, just a little bit more. So cover it with a sock so that when it goes back down, you don't know how much is there and you're focusing on what the baby's telling you, not what the numbers are telling you. If you're looking over 24 hours and baby is not having as much milk as you would expect, and that is a pattern, you need to be checking in with your health visitor, and you may well want to be offering more feeds, smaller, but more frequently. So instead of saying, well, she's not finishing 4 ounces every 3.5 hours, let's try 2 ounces every 2 hours and see where we go from there. Yes. So if she's not taking enough overall and it's a weight concern, small feeds more frequently, check in with a health visitor. So we're avoiding too fast a flow. So these teats here have numbers written on them. I don't even know if you're going to be able to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number 1.
Yeah.
Breastfed babies will probably have number 1 all the way through if they are also having milk from a bottle. It's most similar to breastfeeding.
Harder work.
Yeah, it is. As babies get bigger, if they're predominantly bottle or formula fed, they may well need to move up through the teat sizes, but don't rush it. You know, judge the baby, not the numbers.
Yeah, because they can't swallow it.
And if they're having too fast a flow, you're likely to get a baby who's more refluxy, which is when the sick comes out, or colicky when they're upset because their little tummies can't cope. So that's one of the good things about that paced feeding, is that you're giving the opportunity for that milk to go down and you're reducing the likelihood of reflux and colic. So we're going to avoid horizontal babies. We're going to avoid overfeeding by not looking at the numbers or putting a sock over it. We're going to avoid feeding a baby and doing that. Why are we going to avoid putting our baby straight down like that?
Feeding them like that or after?
No, afterwards. Fed the baby.
Because the digestion, they need to digest it, and it's...
Yeah, the little flap here that stops the milk coming back up in a baby is not very well developed. It's immature. And that's fine, because babies were developed. Babies were, born to be like this. Remember our 4th trimester stuff? On the boob, in mummy's arms, or on mummy's back, or with another member of our tribe. So they were not born to do that straight away. And if we do that straight away, that little flappy bit lets the milk back up, milk comes out, mummy gets worried. So we're going to give baby a little bit of time to digest rather than going straight back down. Okay, so this slide just goes through what I've said about the paced bottle feeding. So for your video this week, so this week going into next week, please can you demonstrate paced bottle feeding? It says to a partner, but we'll do it on a video because we talk too much about donor milk. Can you video yourselves giving a paced bottle feed? If you have a baby bottle at home, please use it. If not, you can use a pencil. You can use a Coke can, it doesn't matter. The thing that you're demonstrating, and use one of these, is the fact that we're going to offer the baby, talk to the baby, what you're saying, and the tipping down. That's what you're going to be demonstrating. So it doesn't matter if it's not a baby bottle. Use what you've got to hand in your teddy or your doll.
Okay.
Okay?
Knitted breast. Is that okay with the knitted breast?
If you want to, it's confusing because it's a boob, but I'm not that easily confused. I can work the fact that you're doing that. That's okay. Use whatever you want.
Yeah.
Talk me in your video, just like the guys who've done swaddling have done really well. You've talked me through what you're doing. It was all those videos are fantastic. You've shown me exactly what you're doing. You're telling me what you're doing. So instead of an activity here, because we're going to finish on time, let's do that as a video.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes.
You need to record ourselves and send the video.
Sorry, I could hear Leanne first that time. Can I
We
hear
need to record ourselves and then send you the video. I don't understand.
That's Claudia.
Hello?
Hello, Claudia. Yeah, you read through that paste bottle feeding again, and then
You say you need to record. You say you need to record ourselves feeding the baby. I'm asking, you need to record and then send you the video, or just for us to practice?
No, please, could you send it on the Facebook group or by the email?
Oh my God.
Your last one doesn't come through, by the way. You sent me an email, but it hadn't got the video on.
Yeah.
You can also use my phone number if that's easier to send a video.
Okay.
Okay.
WhatsApp, I don't mind how, but in person in the
I
class.
will send you on WhatsApp.
Super. Just make sure anyone who does that on WhatsApp, tell me your name, because or else I'll be looking through phone number lists trying to work
Okay.
yeah, because I don't always accept video. I'll see you if I see the video, but if you just WhatsApp me, I don't accept everybody because I get people. So please tell me this is, and then send me a video, and then I'll know it's not like a dodgy man sending me a video.
Okay.
I get all sorts. Mostly I get placenta photos and poo, but you know.
Which one is best? Is it best to send you on your email or?
Email or Facebook is brilliant, but if it's easier for you to do it on the WhatsApp, then you can do that and I can take it off. It's just because if we were in a class in person in London, you'd all have babies in front of you, fake babies, you'd all have bottles in front of you, and I'd be going around and watching.
Okay.
So to pass your assessment, we kind of need to do the same thing, but over the internet or in homes, and we haven't got time in the sessions for me to watch everybody to do it.
Okay, because I noticed, I think I'm the only one that's sent on Facebook, so maybe I thought maybe it's
You
not the
are,
one.
and that was the best, because what it does, other people can see what you've done, so it's fantastic. Who else has sent? Is other people sent me videos? Are you okay if I put them on the Facebook group?
I thought I put mine on the Facebook group, but I've just seen it didn't upload, so I've
seen it, Leanne. There, Alethea, you sent me yours.
Yeah, I'll try Facebook.
It might
be my internet's playing up, so it might have been that it didn't upload. So I'll try after.
Do it later. All good.
What I was going to ask is, with obviously a breastfed mum that can't breastfeed.
Oh, hang on. You stopped in the middle of that and froze. You said a breastfed mum that can't, and then it froze.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now. All good.
So she can't anymore, but she still wants to express.
Yes.
And feed her in a bottle.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the progression with the formula, it's different to obviously the breast milk. Does that mean they have to change the teat still, or still do it little and often? Because obviously
you keep as close to that breastfeeding relationship as possible. So you'd keep with the stage 1 teat and little and often as much as you could, if the mums wanted to transition back.
Yeah. Okay.
But even if whether they're breastfeeding mums or formula feeding mums, suggesting to the parent that they're doing the formula feeding skin to skin. Again, we're looking at what benefits for breastfed babies can we give to formula fed babies.
Yeah.
And as maternity nurses, you wouldn't do skin to skin. That's inappropriate, but do encourage the parents to.
Yeah.
Sorry, does someone else have a question and I stopped them?
No.
Okay, well, look at the slides. It'll take you through what I've just said about that paced feeding, and you'll do it on a video for me, and that'll form part of your assessment, which we would have done in person in London, but we can't go to London. You can all go to London. Most of you are in London. I can't go to London. So, right, I'm just going to check how long I've got, because I promised you I wasn't going to overrun. No, we're fine. Okay, we're good. Sterilising. We need to sterilise equipment, whether it's being used for expressed breast milk or formula. So the most important part of sterilising is washing.
Wash.
If you don't wash something in hot soapy water, it's still going to have milk deposits on. So you can run it through a steriliser, but those milk deposits will still be there, and eventually bacteria will start to grow again. So the most important thing is washing in hot soapy water with a bottle brush as soon after a feed as possible. It's absolutely fine to use a dishwasher, but first of all, run everything off under the tap and then put it in the dishwasher. You can sterilise in 3 ways. Cold water, steam, and boiling. There is no benefit particularly to any of them. It's just what the parent prefers. Has anyone got a preference themselves over what they like to do?
I always done steaming, to be honest.
Yeah,
And the reason I say there's every one of them is fine. What's your reason for liking steaming?
It's just because the mum had this machine.
Yeah.
That's what my
Yeah.
Anyone prefer boiling or cold water sterilising?
Boiling. I'll do boiling.
Yeah. Why do you like that, Ella?
I can cold water kill chemicals or anything, virus.
Cold water.
It's more sterilized, I think, for boiling water.
Okay. Well, it's not more, but it's just as good a way. With the chemical, there is a chemical in the sterilising solution, but it's safe for the baby to have. We just shake off that chemical afterwards. We don't run it under the tap, or else you'd be unsterilising it. But yeah, all of them are equally as safe. The only safety thing is with boiling, obviously, boiling water is dangerous. Same as if you open up a steam steriliser, steam is dangerous. So just be aware of not doing these things while you're holding a baby. Yeah, I would never boil sterilise with a baby in a sling. That's just, asking for trouble. So keep babies away when you're doing this. Okay. And then if you're not going to use that item immediately, you're going to make it up into the bottle and close the cap.
But it's still, obviously, like if you leave it in the steriliser, it doesn't dry.
No, if you leave it in the steriliser with the steriliser lid on and you haven't taken it off, then it's still sterile.
Okay.
As soon as you take the steriliser lid off, then it stops being sterile, but it's still clean. So you've actually got something that's stopped now being sterile, but we haven't introduced a particular supply of bacteria onto it unless we've coughed over it. So you can leave those items to dry and then put them together, but actually putting them together straight away, even though they're still wet, means you've now got a sealed system.
So you would recommend leaving them in the steriliser until you use them?
Preferably, yes, because that is keeping the sterile environment.
Yeah.
And the water there that's been used for the steam steriliser has boiled to make the steam.
Yeah.
It's boiled any nasties away.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact there are some drops on that isn't a problem, because the drops of water are not just out of the tap, they've gone through that heat process.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're fine. So it doesn't. So I would personally either leave it in the steriliser, but then as soon as you've taken it off, you might as well now put them back together like this, because this is now a closed system with the least possibility of bacteria entering it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've got drips of water doesn't matter. That water won't hurt anyone because it's been sterilised.
Sterilized.
You close it when it's wet.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
What you're not going to do then is leave that in the cupboard for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because it's going to start to grow mouldy. We use this within 24 hours, or we'd go through that process again.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, 24 hours over again. Right. I'm so going to be on time. You're going to love me today. Sources of information. So where can you go for help? Where can you go to share things with parents that are not paid for by formula manufacturers as part of their £36 per baby? Kelly Mom and Breastfeeding Support are great breastfeeding resources. Kelly Mom is American, Breastfeeding Support is UK, but both of them are really in depth. If you're like mastitis, need to learn more about those cures, go to those resources. They're really, really good. Global Health Media has some great videos. If you want to look at the slickle I talked about, the exaggerated latch, go to those videos. It's all on there. A couple of breastfeeding groups that parents might find useful. The Breastfeeding Twins group, the Multiple Support group. And those of you who watched the Multiples video with Catherine Stagg will recognise it from there. And the Medicines Advice group, Breastfeeding Drugs in Breast Milk Information. Pretty much all they say is it's fine, but it's really good to know it's fine and to read the information with your client to say it's fine to have drugs when you are, drugs as in medicines, when you are breastfeeding. So really good. If your mum thinks I've been told to have this, am I safe to breastfeed? Go to that website, have a look at their information sheets, talk that, gives the client all of the information they need.
Okay.
For feeding safely, go to the UNICEF site. And it's got a great bottle feeding resources for parents, both about infant milks, about how to sterilize, how to paste feeds. There's some great infant formula resources there. Infantmilks.org and First Steps Nutrition are where to go for information about what is in formula milk and which ones are not evidence-based, in terms of comfort milk not being evidence-based. Got the National Breastfeeding Helpline, and there are other helplines, the Leche League and NCT. Got people like me who are trained breastfeeding counsellors and who are volunteers, sitting on the end of a phone at home, talking to mums and dads who want some support. And they will be more than happy to talk to a maternity nurse. If you phone up one of the helplines and go, I'm not a breastfeeding mum, I'm a maternity nurse and I'm working with a client, she's showing these signs, I wonder if you could just give me some pointers, they'll be very happy to talk to you. They'll also be very happy to talk to that mum direct. If you want to do some reading, there are some dodgy books out there on breastfeeding. Claire Byram Cook has a book. She's the lady who's always on ITV about breastfeeding. And she's got a book that's called How to Breastfeed and What to Do When It Doesn't Work. Well, great, let's set everybody up for failing, shall we, in that book. So here are some books that I do recommend. Positive Breastfeeding book. Professor Amy Brown is actually someone who'll be coming to speak to us on our course. And that book is made up from lots and lots of different experts together, giving some really good advice and information. Dr. Jack Newman is an American paediatrician who is really clear about the value of breastfeeding and how to do it. So great photographs in that book. And Emma Pickett is the chair of the Association of Breastfeeding Mothers here in the UK. And she's got a great supportive book for parents. So, you know, you can do, this is okay. You will be able to do it. And this is how.
Okay.
And then when recommending consultants, look for who they're written by, and you're looking for something called an IBCLC. That's an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. If someone is one of those IBCLCs, it means they have done 1,000 hours plus of clinical breastfeeding help. They've done a 3-hour exam that has to be resat every 5 years. And they are either a health professional, i.e. a qualified midwife, qualified health visitor, or if they weren't, they have done 19 health modules of education to qualify to be this. So that's like the gold standard of breastfeeding support. These people know far more than doctors and paediatricians about breastfeeding, because doctors' breastfeeding education takes up about half a day in 4 years. These people have trained for years to do this, so it's absolutely the gold standard. People can call themselves lactation consultants. Like maternity nurse, we said at the beginning of the course, anyone can say they're a maternity nurse. You could also say you're a lactation consultant, because it's not a protected term. And many people do, and the advice they give is not very good. Look for the IBCLC badge, because they're the people who've got evidence-based advice, which is updated every 5 years. There are a lot of big names in breastfeeding support who used to be a midwife. Brilliant. Love midwives. 30 years ago. Would you take your driving test with someone who last qualified as a driving instructor 30 years ago and hasn't been back since to driving?
No.
Nope. The science has changed. As we learned in our breastfeeding module yesterday, actually even how the breast is made up, we've only learned about in the last few years. Look for an IBCLC. You're guaranteed that the information they're giving has been updated within 5 years, because they have to resit their exams. Right, this is the last slide. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to speak really quickly. Mum is concerned because her 4-week-old baby is not finishing their feeds, their formula feeds. They're making 200 mils on a 4-hourly schedule, but baby only takes 150 mil each time. Baby weighs 4 kilos and is just under the 50th centile when she was born, and she's taking 900 mil in total. So it's a 4-week-old baby, and it's taking 900 mils a day. To help you out, I'm going to flick back to this chart. 900 mils for a 4-week-old baby.
It should be max, like 750.
750.
So looking back at that, and she's saying the baby's only taking 150 each feed. Are we actually worried?
No.
Because it should be
That's
75
still a large
to 105
amount. Yeah.
mil.
That's baby's probably still taking too much. And if the mum's making up 200, it's taking 150. Probably this baby is taking too much. What could we do to help this mum?
Advice.
Advise her, show her the charts. And
Yeah, show her that
So
chart.
the start,
To get 150 ml into that baby, she's probably doing this.
yeah,
Help
paste feeding, yeah.
Talk to her about watching her baby for those cues that he's finished.
Yeah.
Right, scenario 2, mum is combi feeding. So that means she's breastfeeding and giving formula milk in a bottle. But baby has less and less interest in breastfeeding as time goes by, but mum doesn't want to stop. How could we help that mum?
Like you said before, the pumping so that she's getting more supply.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to up that supply. Because that baby's probably showing less and less interest because there's less and less coming out because of the formula. So we're going to talk to her about that, how milk is made. We're going to talk to her about paste feeding to make it as close to the formula, to the breastfeeding as possible, and up her supply. And we might want to try expressing, and instead of the formula, we're refeeding that breast milk.
Yeah.
Baby is unsettled after feed, and mum's best friend said that brand so-and-so worked really well for her baby, but the health visitor said there's no need to change brands. So she comes to you and said, what do you think?
I think it's okay.
We follow the health visitor's advice.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow the health visitor's advice. Your friend's lovely. That I'm so pleased it worked for her, but your health visitor knows that they're all the same.
Yeah.
And then what we'll look into, of course, is why baby's unsettled after feeds. Is baby going straight back down on their back? Has baby been fed in a way that is not helping them to digest the food? Is baby not being winded appropriately? So let's look for the reason. Scenario 4, the last maternity nurse, because you're the second one on this job, told mum to make up all the bottles for 24 hours in advance and store them in the fridge, and she's done it for years without a problem. Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah.
How are you going to tackle it?
I would say.
Sorry.
Anita started.
So I would say that the UK guidelines are that bottles are made up one at a time, and for me, that's the way I would prefer. I would be preparing them, but obviously the mum is welcome to prepare them however she wants to when I'm off duty.
Gold star. Yes, mum is welcome to do whatever she wants, but you're going to stick to the UK guidance. Thank you. It's not saying the other maternity nurse was crap, whatever you're thinking, because we're professional and we're not going to slag someone off. Yeah. But we're going to say what
to make it fresh.
Yeah, you're going to make it fresh because you know that is the guidance, and that is you.
Yeah.
That's my training. This is my training. These are the guidelines. This is what I'm happy to do. And it's not about making it about anyone else. You just state your position. Right, well done. 4 minutes. That's better than 10, which is better than 40. Yeah?
Yay!
Might get better. Great stuff. Okay, there are loads of videos for you to watch. There are going to be a couple more come up over the weekend, your normal webinars. But I'll make really clear in the email what you need to watch before the next session, and which ones are the ones that are just there, you know, for you to look through as and when. Because some of those videos are not session specific, they're just more fun information from great people. But yeah, we'll make sure we know what we're doing next week. And next session is infant sleep. So there will be one video from Professor Helen Ball, who is in charge of the BASIS Institute, which is the big name in infant sleep. I'm very pleased to have her on the course. So we're going to be talking to her about infants, sudden infant death. So that will be one of the ones to watch, please, before our session on Monday. I'll stay here for any questions. If not, goodbye and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, photo next week. I will do the photo.
See ya.
See you Monday. Bye.
See you on Monday.
Monday. Don't forget Mondays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
naming new names.
Oh, God.
Caroline.
Okay, good night. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.